Good evening and welcome to the October 7th meeting of the Mayor and Board of Trustees of the Village of Flossmoor. Just a few reminders as we get started. This meeting is being streamed for the convenience of those who are unable to make it in person. Also, when it's time for public comment, I'll be calling folks from the sign-in list. We ask that you please come to the front, introduce yourself, and act with decorum. Also address your comments to the public body at large and not a single member of staff. And if you would please limit your comments to 5 minutes per person for a total public comment time of 30 minutes. The time is 7:33. Clerk LaValle, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Bradley Scott. Present. Trustee Daggett.
Here.
Trustee Driscoll.
Here.
Trustee Lofton.
Here.
Trustee Mitros.
Here.
Trustee Mustafa.
Here.
Mayor Nelson.
President, thank you so much. We have a quorum. First off, a couple of proclamations. We're going to start with a proclamation declaring Friends of the Library Week. So I'm going to ask if Mary Beth Bino will meet me here at the front. Thanks for coming. Okay. Friends of the Library, Flossmoor Library, do a lot of great work throughout the year. We have an ongoing book sale. They support the summer reading program, which is fantastic. And also trivia nights and other family-friendly events throughout the year. Any other fundraisers that you want to mention while you're here?
Trivia night is coming up very shortly, and we do most of the fundraising during the summer, during the turn to Boston Fest and some way of access.
Thank you so much. We'll go ahead and read this. Whereas the Friends of Flossmoor Library raise funds that enable our library to serve as an outstanding community resource, providing the resources for additional programming, much needed equipment, support for children's summer reading, and special events throughout the year. And whereas the work of the Friends highlights on an ongoing basis the fact that our library is the cornerstone of the community, providing opportunities for all to engage in the joy of lifelong learning and connect with the thoughts and ideas of others from ages past to present. And whereas the Friends understand the critical importance of a well-funded library and advocate to ensure that our library gets the resources it needs to provide a wide variety of services to all ages, including access to print and electronic materials, along with expert assistance in research, readers advisory, and children's services. And whereas the Friends' gift of their time and commitment to the library sets an example for all in how volunteerism leads to positive civic engagement and the betterment of our community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Mayor Michelle I. Nelson, do hereby declare the week of October 20th through 26th as Friends of the Library Week in Flossmoor, Illinois, and urge everyone to join the Friends of the Flossmoor Library and thank them for all of their contributions to make our library and community a special place to call home. Thank you so much. Next, I'd like to call Dernisha Evans up for breast cancer proclamations that we're going to read up. Dernisha is with the Cancer Support Center, and I'd also like to call two very special ladies who are undergoing their own battles with breast cancer, Nanette Driscoll and Jill Kopek. Nanette is the wife of Trustee Brian Driscoll, and Jill Kopek is the wife of Fire Chief Kopek. Whereas during National Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we stand with the courageous women and men who have been diagnosed with breast cancer. And we honor those who have lost their battle to this terrible disease. And whereas, according to the American Cancer Society, breast cancer is the most common cancer in women in the United States, except for skin cancers. Breast cancer accounts for 1 in 3 new female cancers each year. About 310,720 women will be diagnosed with new cases of invasive breast cancer in the United States in 2024. And whereas the National Breast Cancer Awareness Month program is dedicated to increasing public knowledge about the importance of early detection of breast cancer and prompt treatment, which can significantly reduce the suffering and deaths caused by this disease. And whereas, in recognition of the fact that mammography and X-ray of the breast is the single most effective method of detecting breast changes that may be cancerous long before physical symptoms can be seen or felt. And whereas cancer touches so many families across the country, including ours, it is up to all of us to continue fighting for a cure and to ensure that every American has access to the quality care they need. And whereas this month, Flossmoor joins all those who are battling breast cancer and all types of cancer. Those who have lost their lives to the disease, their loved ones, and all dedicated healthcare workers in spreading awareness, committing to public education, and embracing hope for better diagnoses, treatments, and a cure. Now therefore, I, Michelle A. Nelson, Mayor of Flossmoor, do hereby proclaim October 2024 as National Breast Cancer Awareness Month in Flossmoor, Illinois. And I call upon the women of Flossmoor to speak with their doctors and healthcare providers to learn more about breast cancer. I urge all women and their families to get facts about mammography. I actually just got it tested a couple weeks ago. We are so lucky here in the Village of Flossmoor to have the University of Chicago Ingalls Center. It was 25 minutes from the time I got out of my car into the appointment, got checked, and back out to my car. So literally I had no excuse for waiting 3 years and then disappointed myself for taking my call. But anyway, also Darnisha, would you like to say a few words about the Cancer Support Center and the walk coming up or any of the other fine work that you do for the community?
Hello everybody, thank you for having me. We are located in downtown Homewood, right behind the fire station, and we also have a location in Mokina, right the south of the Expressway. So our new Peekaboo Walk, we say new because we have a lot of things happening this year, is October 13th. There's still time to get a team, or join the team, or just donate, or just come out and walk with us, right at the Homewood location. And our services are all free, guys. If you know someone, if not yourself, your caregivers, therapy, cooking classes, nutrition classes, wigs, massages, everything is free, but people really don't know about us. So we're trying to get out there to let you know that we're there to help, and everything is confidential.
Thank you for all the work. And one just giant, huge round of applause, please, for Jill and Nan for everything that they've done tonight. For being so strong. It came back great. Keep up the battle. Those are amazing. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much. Next, we will move to public comment. Warren Engelberg, welcome.
Thank you. My name is Warren Engelberg. I'm law school. I'm going to conclude the talk I'm giving about the critique of government spending. And this will be the conclusion. So we talked about worker co-ops and the solution. I'm going to borrow from the head of the Labor Party in England. This I'm kind of going over this one. This is a little bit here from last week. Jeremy Corbyn. He's not the current head. They bounced him out and replaced him with Casper Milquetoast, Keith Starmer, who will be another Tony Blair, which is to say nothing. That's who we got. But Jeremy Corbyn had a different plan. Here we go. The law would be passed that Jeremy Corbyn, which is why they pushed him out. The law will be passed the minute we win the election and become the government of Great Britain. The law will say any business that wants to stay as the capitalist business it is can do so. And any business that proposes to change, by that he meant shut down or leave the country or merge with another business or go public. I'm issuing shares Any company wanting to make that kind of change will have to offer its own workers something called the right of first refusal. In other words, it has to offer itself for sale to its own workers. If the workers don't make an offer, then they are going to be free to go and do whatever they want. If the workers are willing to leave the company and pay the price, then they get priority. They can buy the company or the division where they work. And then the reporters turned to Jeremy and John O'Donnell and said, why did you do this? And the answer they gave was, we want to work the co-op sector of the British economy, and here's why we want it. We want British people to finally have some genuine freedom of choice. The freedom to choose whether to do business with a capitalist top-down company for the things you need, or work the co-op for the things you need. Will you buy your toothpaste from one or the other? Will you go and get a job in one or the other? What do the British people want? We should have an economy that mixes capitalists and worker co-op enterprises according to their preferences. Nothing else would be democratic in terms of an economic system chosen by a one-person, one-vote process of the people. They could have answered with another argument. They didn't, but they could have. Jeremy Corbyn and John O'Donnell could have said, we want government spending the many, many billions of dollars that the British government spends each year on roads, highways, schools, and hospitals. And you name it, we want a percentage of that spending to go into producing the goods and services the government wants by worker co-ops. So that the money the government spends will be distributed relatively equally the way worker co-ops do. It will be used to take care of the needs of the community and the people who work there first, not some private investors, because worker co-ops don't have those things. We want that because it will make a better society for all of us. They could have made the argument, and they could have taught the British people, look, the impact of the government isn't only on what it spends, but how it spends it, to who it gives taxpayer money, for services, to produce products, because how you do that shapes society. Jeremy Corbyn showed us the way. The government can develop a sector to which it then gives contracts, and that can be done everywhere. In many countries already there are co-ops. Even here in the United States, where there are relatively fewer of them, we have many of our businesses now in various kinds of cooperative structures. We have the U.S. Federation of Worker Co-ops, an association that's been around for many years. It's accumulated skills and resources to share, to help governments, state, local, and federal, develop worker co-op sectors. We know how to manage them, how to finance them, and how to solve a whole host of problems. The most developed worker co-op system in the Western world, the Engelberg Corporation in Spain, they have their own university, where they teach courses on how to organize, set up, manage, run, rescue, and finance worker co-ops. We're not starting from nothing. There's a whole developed logic, history, and record of knowledge. It lacks only the economic and even more political will to do this, to take advantage of the resources already there, the knowledge already accumulated, and to produce a worker co-op sector that can develop enormous benefits to our culture. If only we let it get going. Do not let the bad habit of having nothing but capitalism taught to us all the time. Look at the curricula taught in business schools. Do they teach anything other than capitalism? By and large, no. No courses on worker co-ops, certainly no curriculum devoted to how to set them up and run them. It's as if they weren't there, even though they are, have been for a long time. All of that would change if there were a political will, and we would get, as I say, much less inequality and a much warmer, more community-oriented production system. It's been the dream of critics of capitalism for a long time, whether they call themselves socialists or not, to move in these kinds of directions as a way to have a competition with capitalism. But in the end, we show people that this way of doing things can take us to a better place than capitalism has been able to achieve. When the French and American revolutions brought capitalism to the modern world and overthrew feudalism, they promised it would bring liberty, equality, fraternity, and democracy. It brought some of those.
Thank you,
But
Mr.
it didn't bring them far enough. For that, we need the next step, and that next step is all about
Mr.
worker
Engelberg.
co-ops in the field of production.
Thank you.
Madam President, I'd like to remind the audience that as much as you have so seriously tried to share your information, it is political speech when you're advocating in any direction of any governmental operation. And we're getting into a period where it's very, very sensitive. And consequently, Mr. Engelberg, as much as we have all these weeks enjoyed your sharing with us information, I will remind everyone here that taking a political stance or advocating a political position is what is not within the policy of the village board.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, Ms. Andrea Perry.
Andrea Perry. I would like to call to the board's attention that on numerous occasions, the mayor has not followed the Village Flossmoor policy providing rules of public conduct, specifically rule number 4. Rule number 4 states, any member of the board or committee may ask questions of the speaker after that speaker has concluded his or her comments. I want to emphasize that this rule gives license to ask questions. It does not give license to make a commentary in response to what the speaker has said. Moving forward, I ask that the mayor adhere to following this rule, and if ever she doesn't, I expect the village council or another board member to call a point of order to stop such commentary from being made. Last month, the League of Women Voters Homewood-Flossmoor area presented a workshop on misinformation and disinformation, what voters need to know, how to identify and combat election disinformation in our local communities. The presenter, Barb Lehman of the League's task force, spoke about misinformation, inadvertently sharing false information without harm, disinformation, intentionally sharing false information with the intent to harm. She also spoke of authority bias in conjunction with recognizing misinformation and disinformation. Authority bias is the tendency to attribute greater accuracy to an authority figure, regardless of the actual expertise. This bias can lead us to accept information or advice from authority figures without critically evaluating. Authority bias can have several negative consequences. It can lead us to make bad decisions and more susceptible to manipulation. This is a quote from Authority Bias posted by the College of Public Speaking 2006 Limited. As mayor, the mayor carries the position of authority figure. The mayor has demonstrated a pattern of using the power of authority bias to throw doubt and invalidate those public comments that are not to her liking. In these situations, she asks no questions. Instead, she makes commentaries on the public comment after the speaker speaks, as she did in my case at the September 3rd board meeting. In doing this, the public comment now turns into the mayor's comment, and the mayor having the last word on that person's public comment, thus making this now a mayor's comment. This is not in keeping with the intent of public comment.
Madam Perry,
Yes.
I have been advised that you are a campaign chair for a candidate for office of mayor.
That is not true.
You are not involved in not advocating and not in support of. That's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about any kind of a co-chair of a campaign.
I'm not a co-chair of the campaign.
You have a position with the campaign.
I'm treasurer.
So the point of the story is you are in fact working for opposition candidate to the mayor. And so using this format to criticize the mayor is politicizing. And so I consequently have to admonish you from using our public comment to advocate your political position for a candidate.
That is not the case. I am a citizen of Flossmoor, and whether I was a treasurer for this is not political. I am in search of the truth. This is not following the rules.
In your opinion, it is not following the rules. The rules of Robert's Rules of Order is the mayor is the chair of the meeting. She can invoke the rules as long as it's not outside the rules. She can invoke the rules that she chooses. She chooses not to have anyone answer questions to keep it from being a follow-up, to being other than a public comment section.
Attorney.
It doesn't change the fact that you, for the second meeting in a row, are using this platform to criticize.
That is not true, attorney.
What would you call it?
That is your opinion, and that is
And
not
my
true.
opinion is the
And
one
I
that
take
counts.
offense, because this is not politicizing. And who are you to tell me that that is your opinion? And for you to interrupt me, this is
No, this is not within the policy of the board. It is not.
what is the policy of, the
The
policy
policy of the
is
board
saying,
is that you not make political
and this
speeches.
is, and what how so is this a political statement? What is it that
I will
said
not
was
argue
a
with you.
political-
I will not argue with you.
And
But
I'm not
to use
trying
this
to argue
format
with
every
you.
week to criticize
And I am
someone
saying
to
that
whom
is
you are
not
opposed.
true. And you have not shown me any proof that it is the truth. That is your opinion.
And if you
And
want-
so now you're saying that I cannot make a
Chair, would you
statement,
rule? This is.
and you are representing.
While, Ms. Perry, while legally, Ms. Perry, would you like to
I am
finish?
not going to argue with you, but this is wrong.
Ms. Perry, while legally she is correct, would you like to finish?
I don't believe
I'm
she is
inviting you to,
legally correct.
I'm inviting you to finish.
As she did in my case at the 9/3 board meeting. What has been allowed to occur is the mayor, instead of the public commenter having the last word on their own comments. And once the mayor has spoken, there is no recourse for the public commenter to respond back. That rule is the rule that is enforced. Given the mayor's pattern in preparation for my 9/3 public comment, I anticipated that she wasn't going to ask me any questions after I spoke. She has yet to do so, but instead she would make a nullifying statement to what I said, which she did. After taking approximately four and a half minutes to present my findings, from spending hours of researching, analyzing, organizing facts to support my conclusion that village codes had been violated, as I walked away from the podium, she says, "Mrs. Perry, I can assure you no violations were broken." In anticipation in this response, I had pre-prepared a statement to respond to her commentary. However, I was not allowed to do so. She could respond, however, I was not able to respond in defense of my own public comment. I wasn't allowed to respond then, however, I am now. And my response was and is this: I would need to be supplied the evidence that substantiates the mayor's claim and review it to even consider her claim to be valid. Just because the mayor says it so doesn't mean it's so. I'm a 37-year resident of Flossmoor, and I love living in Flossmoor. I make these public comments from a heartfelt drive and passion to building Flossmoor up, on, and better together. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Perry. Mr. Troy Holmes, welcome.
Hello. Thank you, Mayor and Board of Trustees, for allowing me to speak today. I appreciate the board agenda being made available before meetings as a level of transparency between the board and public. Tonight, you'll be presented with a resolution to purchase a sculpture reaching for the sky that could become a permanent piece of our public art collection. The purchase price for this sculpture is $7,000. As you know, per the village's fiscal year 2024-2025 budget, the Public Art Commission's revenues are $10,700. This sculpture the Commission wants to purchase would be 70% of those revenues for the year. That is a 70% expenditure for only one piece of public art. That is a 70% expenditure on a piece of public art for, once again, Levitt Park. Furthermore, the 2024-2025 budget, the Public Art Program fund balance, excluding maintenance, is $27,700. To be clear, the village would be spending 25% of our public art fund balance to purchase this piece. The village should strongly consider why we would spend that amount of money on one piece that will sit in Levitt Park. I've heard from many residents that you will get more people engaged in our public art program if you spread the art throughout all of our neighborhoods in Flossmoor. This would foster a more inclusive public art commission, and in turn, increase donations and involvement. At the February 19th, 2024 Village Board meeting, this Board of Trustees directly asked the Public Art Commission to make their processes and procedures public, as that is important for us to see. Furthermore, the board suggested the commission create a rubric of how public art pieces would be placed. You felt this would create more transparency and be more useful to determine the location of pieces, to feel more equitable. I'm going to give you another number. 231. It has been 231 days since you made this request. Has the Public Art Commission presented these to the board? The public has yet to see it. I can tell you from first-hand experience, the Public Art Commission has been reminded several times. I reminded them of the Village Board's request at their meeting on April 8th. No action or discussion was taken. I again raised the Village Board's request at their meeting on May 13th. This time, the Public Arts Commission's response was, and I quote, "No vote was done by the board for this," end quote. I continue to bring this request up at every Public Art Commission meeting I've attended. So I come before you tonight asking that you hold any purchase of new public art until you get a rubric of how pieces are placed and a statement of how procedures are for new art. The public needs to know the how, when, and why art is placed throughout this village. This is a way to foster transparency with the government and the public. I've heard the word transparency many times at these meetings on numerous topics. You have the power to now hold the commission accountable and formally ask for the rubric and statement of procedures you have already requested. The Village Board adopted a set of guiding principles for diversity and inclusion in August of 2018. One of those principles states that the village's programs operate in a way that is fair and equitable. The Public Art Commission is not adhering to this principle, and now is the time for accountability. Thank you to the Mayor and Board of Trustees for your continued leadership, appreciation for the public art program, and your commitment to inclusivity within our village.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. Pastor Roberts. Welcome, good to see you. Been a while.
First of all, I want to thank all of those who support breast cancer awareness. I'm certainly standing in prayer with those who are battling and families who have lost loved ones. It's dear to me because I lost 2 sisters, my older sister and one of my middle sisters. So I really support that. They drive past my house is lit up in pink. So again, I support that. One concern I have is that the parking rules in the inside of the village. I know we have a sign right when you come in head of hill, no parking on the fire hydrant side of the street. That's not adhered to. It's never adhered to because there's not enough signs in the village. A lot of residents don't even know that you can't park on the fire side of the street. The reason I'm saying that is I came in last week on Oakmont, and I guess they was having a children's party. They was having a breast cancer awareness event on the same block. And so they would park, and cars were coming in both directions, and there was a bottleneck, and we couldn't get through it, so we had to sit there and kind of wait until people tried to back out and maneuver to get out. So I noticed that ordinance is not adhered to. We don't have any signs in the village. We have the one sign that come in head of hill, no parking on. Nobody ever pays that sign any attention. So that could be just remembered because I've been here 24 years and I remember when they tried to institute that because there was a fire and cars were parked and the fire trucks couldn't get through and the house was burned to the ground. So I don't know if that rule is still in effect or is it being enforced or what's really going on.
On what road was that?
That's on Oakmont.
On Oakmont?
But
And
it
then,
applies throughout the village.
it does, yeah. And, it's a good reminder to put out there, we'll run a campaign.
We don't have any signs. We have any signs throughout the village, so even residents are not even aware of it.
We'll look at the signage and then also a campaign to remind folks, no parking on the hydrant side, and then also enforcement too.
All right.
Thank you.
Mayor, could I comment
Sorry.
on that, please?
Yes.
At one time, we did have a program that was actually implemented and used by the police department to provide residents with signs when they were having events so that their guests would not do this. Ordinarily, when you're having an event, you should inform your guests not to park. It doesn't happen, and sometimes people just don't do it. But the signs, I recall, did help early on. So just a thought if we want to start a campaign, as you suggested.
A reminder on that too. Yeah, thank you.
And I also commented, in the new resident packet, that was something that was highlighted in the new resident packet that isn't highlighted anymore. We've had a large number of residents that have moved in, and if you're not paying attention to the photocopy piece of paper, it blends in with everything else. Whereas initially it stood out a bit when we first implemented it, but now it just blends in with the other ordinance, so you don't see it.
So when the ordinance was passed around 2015, 2016, we did a campaign, Park on the Safe Side. So meaning non-fire hydrant side of the street. We had postcards that we distributed profusely throughout the village, and I know even our officers had some in their cars. I'm sure at this point those postcards have we've gone through them, and it's probably time to start that again. We are in the process of updating our resident materials as well, and certainly that will be something that we highlight because it is a unique ordinance to Flossmoor. And I want to encourage that if you ever come upon a situation that Pastor Roberts described, where you can't get down the street because somebody is not adhering to the regulations, you don't know the person to be able to approach them and ask them politely to start moving cars, please call the police department and ask for an officer to come out. We're not looking to wanted to just make the property owner aware that this ordinance is in effect and kindly ask people to relocate their cars so vehicles can get through.
Great reminders, thank you. Last public comment, Beth LaRocca. Welcome.
Beth LaRocca, 18 resident on Archival. Sorry, Troy, I was gonna talk about the same thing, but nicer way. I appreciate that we're buying artwork instead of just renting it, because I think that's what we start with. I also believe that, so I appreciate it. I think our public art is one of the things that makes us very unique. And I was pleased to see we were able to do that. I think it's hard to raise money. Everybody's trying to raise money. So we're always in competition with each other. I do believe that initially the public art started as a walkable public art thing. So where I think I don't know if I want to call it methodology or philosophy is changing, and I think that's a good thing. So, but we have to start somewhere when we purchase, and it's with something we already have. I think they raise money every year, and they get to recommend what we buy, and maybe that was the one that was affordable, even if it is all of it. But I appreciate our public art and what the volunteers on the commission do, because I like it to stay here. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
Is there anything anybody would like to hold?
Yes, I'd like to, go ahead. Go ahead, trustee.
I'd like to pull number 7.
Okay.
And I'd like to pull 4 and 6.
Thank you. So can I get a motion to approve consent agenda items number 3 and 5?
So moved.
Clerk Legala, would you please call the roll?
On items 3 and 5.
Yes, ma'am.
Trustee Bradley Scott?
Yes?
Trustee Daggett?
Yes.
Trustee Driscoll?
Yes.
Trustee Lofton?
Yes.
Trustee Mitros?
Yes.
Trustee Mustafa?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you so much. Can I get a motion to approve item number 4, presentation of the bills for approval and payment as approved by the Finance Committee dated October 7th, 2024?
So moved. Second.
Thank you so much. Trustee Mustafa, what is your question on that?
Okay, my question is a combination of just inquiry and also process. I want to first compliment the Monarch project that was done, I believe, in collaboration with Jack and Jill, is that correct?
Correct.
And I was pleased to see the collaboration with both the Green Commission and staff. However, I was a little confused, and maybe this is because it was just a social media post, but I'm a little confused that, one, we don't see mention of it in the manager's report since it was such a well-received project. And then more importantly, in relationship to this agenda item, should I be seeing some kind of a line item on the invoices? How was this project funded?
Jonathan or Stephanie, can I have some assistance?
Of course.
This was a project that was brought to the Green Commission from Monarch Cities, and you haven't seen the bill we submitted for the stamp center have it. But I talked to Public Works, and there was money in the balance of what they had available to be able to pay for the project.
Okay, so the entire project was funded by the budget in Public Works?
Yes.
Do you recall the total amount?
I don't want to guess.
It was more than $50.
It was more than 50, it was less than 2,000.
Okay, so just out of ignorance, I don't know, how are projects like this typically approved? Is this just the staff approved it? The board doesn't need to hear about it?
So I went through, I worked with our arborist, Dave Becker, who felt really confident that he said, this is an area that we've looked at anyway, and he said, so if we have a group, especially working with kids in the community that are interested in coming out and planting, he said, then yes, let's push this through.
Okay, so again, not to criticize because it was a very admirable project, but do we do that without considering other groups? Is this just this group came forward, or do we say we have this money in public works, let's look at 3 or 4 groups and see which is the best?
Oftentimes the public works will actually do the 2 different plantings themselves, and that's probably where this is coming out of. So this was probably not something that's completely budgeted for like as an event or a community group, but it was asked if this was a possibility, and then the arborist or public works employee and Stephanie worked on a program together that would benefit the community, but probably at a more reasonable cost, especially. So funds dedicated to planting that is part of.
Okay, so I think I did not provide enough context in my question, not particularly just related to planting or green related, but any project where you have an outside group that you want to support or collaborate with. Is this the usual procedure that, and just asking, is this the usual procedure that staff would just discuss among yourselves? I'm kind of curious why the board didn't hear, by the way, we're doing this, or we've chosen this civic effort, and we've chosen Jack and Jill.
Yeah, I think I'll apologize for it not being in the manager's report. That should at least be in the manager's report. If we did something like this in the future, I think that we can bring that, so I'll take responsibility for that.
Just looking for a little bit more openness. I hate to keep using the word transparency, but just a little bit more upfrontness.
And I think with this particular project, because there's not a lot of green space that the village actually owns, this was an opportunity that we could work with a service group and do some of these projects together. So I think it was just an opportunity that came across. In the future, we would definitely provide a manager report and tell the board what's going on, not just the.
Okay, thank you.
I'll just add, I would say it is a typical process. It's not unusual for, different groups, say at the high school, for example, to come forward and say that they're looking for service hours, or Girl Scout troops looking to do different things. And Stephanie will take that opportunity, our staff will take that opportunity, even if it's in other departments, to see if there could be a partnership there. So if there's funding available, and certainly, this was a nice synergy because this is an area that we were looking to make some improvements anyway. I would say that it is a typical process.
Okay, thank you.
And we're so thankful for Jack and Jill Monarch Cities and their community advocacy and all they do, from books to plantings. They're setting a great example for those kids, and they're fun to work with too. Was there any other questions on that item? Perfect.
Excuse me, I have more questions on item 4. No.
Okay, so if there are no other questions, I'm going to ask Clerk Legalvo to, did you have a question on that?
I do have.
Oh, sorry, Trustee Bradley Scott.
In full transparency, I am a member of Monarch Cities chapter of Jack and Jill of America, and it was presented in our chapter meeting that there was an in-kind donation from Possibility Place, and so it was promoted that Possibility Place made the donation from that particular entity and not the village. And so I would like clarity on that as well, because the way that you just explained it, everyone explained it, it sounded like it came from the village, but in speaking with the chapter, it sounds like it came from a person on the Green Committee who is part of, that is part of their company. So if you can provide more clarity there, that would help.
That was just a mistake. the Monarch Cities chapter, I think, assumed that it was, a donation. It wasn't. This was, not a donation. There are possibility places submitting, a bill for this. That's all I can say.
Yeah, it's, I know the possibility places donating many other things to the village, in different, you know, whether it be like tree saplings or different milkweed or different actual trees during the our big climate change. But I think they were the vendor of choice for this particular company because they acknowledge of native species in the area.
And again, this is perhaps a Monarch Cities question and not a village question, but in terms of that was a mistake, you said, Stephanie, so where was the gray area where Monarch Cities was not aware of what the?
I'm not sure. I didn't go to any of the meetings with them. I was more, brought in along the scheduling of the project. I wasn't talking with anybody except for, Dave Becker about funding. I never spoke to Monarch Cities about funding.
Okay, as a 501c3, there's a delineation of how things have to be done, so I want to make sure that given the actual funds that were given and not a donation from the heart, that everything is summed up properly.
Their service was definitely a donation, which we so appreciated, working with the kids, and I know the green commissioners that were there really enjoyed it as well.
I have no more questions, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on item number 4? Seeing none, clerk Liddell, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Daggett.
Yes.
Trustee Driscoll.
Yes.
Trustee Lofton.
Yes.
Trustee Mitros.
Yes.
Trustee Mustafa.
Yes.
Trustee Bradley Scott.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you so much. Can I get a motion to approve the consideration of a resolution of the Village of Flossmoor, Cook County, Illinois, approving an intergovernmental agreement between ECOM and individual members for the use of the Motorola radios and repayment to ECOM?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you so much. And here to present, Fire Chief Bosco. Welcome.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I know it's a lengthy memo, so we'll kind of go through it. Over the past few months, the fire department and all ECOM dispatch fire agencies have experienced significant issues and outages to basically our ECOM fire band, which is our main form of communication for any basic 911 incidents within the region. We've had Chi-Com out several times on occasions to take a look at the network, and it's basically kind of at its end of life. And there's a choice that needs to be made about investing significant dollars into rebuilding infrastructure, technology that's kind of antiquated at this point. So between the ECOM director, Craig Kowalski, Chi-Com Communications, and Motorola, in conjunction with Cook County, who supports the 800 megahertz system for the police, the best option for us was to probably make the move over to 800, which is something we've talked about over the last several years. With the issues experienced within the current low band frequency that we're on, we found it best to make the move over to 800. The downside to that is, and we probably haven't made that move over the last several years, is the cost of the equipment. The current equipment that we operate on is not compatible with the 800 system. Therefore, all the agencies involved in ECOM need to make the move over to the equipment. That completes the 7-year lease agreement that was submitted. Again, the 800 band is going to increase stability and our ability to be able to talk to police officers at the same frequency. Cost savings due to the long-term cost of maintaining the current infrastructure is going to basically reduce over time, saving us significant money. The technology is significantly higher than current standards. The new equipment allows for cellular data, Wi-Fi, and GPS capabilities, meaning when we go into a school and we lose connectivity because of the current frequency system, it literally converts to a cellular plan. So the firefighters are actually talking basically over a cellular network versus over a high frequency system. So this is huge when it comes to schools, hospitals, large buildings, mines, everywhere we have some type of radio interference. And then we get to the 7-year lease, which basically was proposed to try to find a solution that would fit all 9 agencies within the current system. We believe about half of them are gonna go ahead and purchase the equipment outright, with the other half potentially exercising the 7-year lease program. That's a 4.25% APR. We sat with the finance department and looked at options for the Village of Flossmoor. And again, in looking at what was earmarked over the capital schedule going out to FY31, we find it most beneficial if we basically pay for the equipment at the time of the first payment, which is roughly, I think it's end of fourth quarter FY25, first quarter 26, is what we're looking for the first payment. If we take the purchase option, we save about $40,000 over the term of the 7-year lease agreement. And looking at the capital schedule for the FY25-26, in the event we spend all of the capital funds budgeted for this current fiscal year, we have be looking for an additional $40,000 to fund the project into next year. If we come short and save some money in our capital fund, it's going to just come off the $40,000.
Thank you so much. Trustee Mustafa, since you pulled this item, I'll let you go first. What questions do you have?
Thanks for coming up. I believe I understand the justification, the need, so I really won't go into the outages and the different points that you have because to me it seems clear. So my questions are confusion related to the budget, the interest, etc. Sure. Bear with me just a little bit. There's a figure in your letter of $50,000 in interest that you would save. So you're not borrowing money, you're just paying a lump sum up front, and you don't have to pay interest. And from the, it's kind of like an invoice, it's 4-point-something%.
4.25% was the term. Yep.
That's the $50,000.
That's the $50,000. We calculate that over the 7 years, so it comes out to about $50,000 cost.
So I paid it, I saved the interest, and I own everything outright. We own everything outright.
We own it's paid for.
Assuming, and I'm just reading, assuming the fiscal year 25 capital equipment budget was expended in full, so can you tell me what's in the budget now for this? Because I don't see that number.
So if you look at the capital schedule, which I don't know if you have the capital one, but looking at the capital schedule that's built out, the fire department had $89,541 in capital expenditures budgeted in the capital schedule. There's also police radios at $162,000, bringing it to $251,541 of basically money that's already been budgeted in the capital schedule. So the difference between the $291,399 and the $251,541 is $39,858.
So that's why you're adding an additional 40,000, you rounded it up.
So the difference is the $39,858.
Okay, okay, that makes sense. Okay, so the other part I didn't understand, was where you talk about the net savings. So, reading again, assuming the fiscal year 25 capital equipment budget was expended in full, we would need to fund the budget with an additional 40,000, and you explain that, it's 39,858 rounded up to 40,000. Which is less than the $50,000 payable in interest, or a net savings of 10,000. So are you saying that you're just paying the lump sum up front and that will still save the interest?
So by just spending the $40,000 now, we're saving $50,000 over the 7 years.
Okay,
so we're really saving like $10,000 of difference. The difference between the financing fee, $50,000, and the additional $40,000 upfront cost is a $10,000 difference.
Okay, so looping back, we're really not saving $50,000 in interest, or that's in a cost avoidance?
Well, if we financed over the 7 years, it would be the $291.30 something and some change, and $50,000 in finance on top of it.
Okay.
Amortized over 7 years.
Amortized over 7 years, so.
Yeah, I got
Yeah,
that.
so it would be the 291,399.99 with an additional roughly 50,000 interest we could cover over the 7 years if we execute the lease option.
Okay, so we're comfortable that to save 10,000, it's worth giving a lump sum.
I would like to say 10,000.
Okay, and then back, moving to, it's on page 59 of the packet. And this is just a question of clarification, not at all challenging the need.
No, I'm good.
You need your stuff, okay? So we see amount 291, 399.99 cents, 0 down payment. 291,399.99 cents, plus $6,886.39 to bring it to $298,286, right? That's the subscription fee.
The subscription fee is an additional cost.
Right. So I didn't see the subscription fee listed on page 59, so I was just wondering if somewhere.
Oh, the subscription fee. Oh, no, I did it. I think it's listed in the.
It was, that's where I got it, but I was wondering why you didn't put it on the attachment B.
So, I'm staring at here, so year one is $6,886.39.
Right. No, I got that. I was just wondering why it's not on attachment B.
If I may, attachment B came from Motorola Solutions for purposes of the financing. The annual subscription fee will become an operating cost borne by each municipality.
And Motorola wouldn't have put it
And
on.
it's not part of the financing.
Yeah.
That clarifies it. Thank you. Thank you, that's all.
I'd also like to add that, we're doing this project in conjunction with the municipalities of Southtown. And that together we will be seeking, some grant funding, reimbursable grant funding, to hopefully, cross our fingers, make all of our communities whole for the equipment purchase. So wish us luck as we move forward with that endeavor.
Any other questions from the board on this item?
I got a couple questions.
Sure. Trustee Brenda Scott?
Yes, thank you for the additional clarification that you provided, Trustee Mustafa, because those were some of my questions as well. You added an additional comment about the police radio budget is where some of that came from in terms of being able to pay for the capital schedule, from the capital schedule. And my question is, are the radios shared between police and fire? Because I thought that the police was already using it, or is it a changeover?
So I think what's happening since we're all moving to this technology is we're seeing, we reached out to Motorola and vendors to ask, what is the true life of these radios with the technology? And they're telling us that it's a comfortable 10 to 12 years on portables. On mobiles, it's more of a 15 to 20 year cycle, 12 to 15 to 20. So looking at what's in the capital budget is trying to straighten out where the capital falls in terms of purchasing to replacement.
So we're pulling from, is this a police line item that we're combining with fire, or is it something different that?
If I may, I'll jump in here. So when we sat down to take a look at whether we had to move to financing or purchase outright, we're obviously in the middle of our budget year, so there's some moving parts here, as mentioned. We're in the midst of various capital equipment replacements. That being said, we had last purchased police radios in 2020, and had at that point in time assigned a 5-year life to them, because they had not been put into the capital equipment schedule before that. As Chief mentioned, we've done some consultation with Motorola on what their true lifespan is, and that is being moved to a 10-year, which actually falls very nicely with the schedule. They would have been replaced in 26, but that will not be needed, and they fall again into the schedule in 2031. And so those monies can be essentially reallocated for this purpose without losing our replacement for police radios. One of the things that Motorola shared with us is, from an equipment standpoint, unless you run over it with a truck, the actual device itself will hold a much longer life. What happens is technology changes, and that's the point where they become obsolete.
So, thank you for that. That was also helpful because I was trying to calibrate where, when I was looking, where we were getting the extra money from the fire side. So that makes sense. And I know that we received a $2.9 million award I think this was last year, for the joint econ. And so I didn't know if some of that could be used, or if we're looking at it from the standpoint of, since we're in a joint agreement, we want everybody to kind of go out and find their own money and use the other money for something else.
No, so the grant you're referencing that Econ has received is for consolidation purposes, for purposes of moving to the new center, and building that new center. Radios is not a part of that. And actually, we've been fortunate enough to receive some additional grant funding for that purpose. I'm sure there'll be an update on consolidation efforts in the future, but that is a part from what we're talking about here this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, trustee Day.
Yeah, just a couple of questions. Where are we in the life cycle of the 800 megahertz system? Any ideas, like how soon they'll migrate to it?
800 is, nothing's been above the 800 that I've heard of at this point. I think what we're seeing now that they went to the 800 and now that you're seeing the technology of the cellular capabilities, I think it's here to stay a while. What's next beyond that, I really don't know. But again, the fire side has been really slow to move the 800 side. The law enforcement has jumped 800 years ago, and it's worked out wonderful for them. And again, you see the cost to move, and looking for funds has always been a struggle. And we've, as a division, put out for grant funding for the last 2 or 3 years, trying to solicit FEMA funds that'll kind of push this. Unfortunately, just here, the infrastructure issues we're dealing with in the band is forcing us to make a move.
But it'd be a fairly safe assumption that you're not going to migrate away from 800 before this stuff is needed to be replaced. So, okay, great. And then the other thing you mentioned, the switching from the 800 megahertz to the system. Does that mean that if our 800 megahertz system, like for some reason went down completely, you can operate completely on cell? It's like it just completely.
As long as the cell sites are up, you can run completely on cellular service.
Okay, cool. That's a great. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's my next questions. Thank you.
Trustee Driscoll? Trustee Lofton?
Nothing.
Trustee Meckers? Nothing. All right, clerk will gavel, please call the roll.
Trustee Driscoll.
Yes.
Trustee Lofton.
Yes.
Trustee Mitros.
Yes.
Trustee Mustafa.
Yes.
Trustee Bradley Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Daggett. Motion passes.
Thank you so much. Can I get a motion to approve the capital equipment purchase of Genesis extrication tools?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, and we have Assistant Fire Chief Matt Burke. Welcome, Matt.
Welcome, thank you for having me. I just want to say thank you for supporting the initiative for breast cancer awareness by our insurance. The fire department is formally requesting the village board's approval to purchase new battery-powered extrication tools from Genesis Rescue System as outlined in FY 24-25 capital replacement schedule. These tools are intended to replace our current set purchase in 1996. During FY 22-23, the fire department identified that capital schedule did not exist for our extrication equipment during the budget process. We placed the equipment in FY 24-25, knowing that it had surpassed the 10-year life based on the manufacturer's recommendations and their inability to provide maintenance anymore. Over the past 2 years, we worked diligently to pursue grant funding to help offset the cost of this purchase, which demonstrates our commitment to fiscal responsibility. However, we have been unable to secure any grants successfully. While our existing extrication tools have served us well in the past, they are now increasingly outdated and unable to meet the demands of temporary emergency response. Manufacturers such as Genesis Rescue Systems recommend a replacement schedule of every 10 years. We are currently at 28. By adopting this proactive approach, the fire department can ensure that our extrication tools remain aligned with the latest advancements in vehicle technology, This commitment to modernization will significantly enhance our operational efficiency and effectiveness in providing safe and exceptional service during rescue operations. Currently, we are 5 standards behind according to the NFPA guidelines, highlighting the urgent need for updated tools. Since 1996, developments in extrication tools have enabled rescuers to operate more flexibly without being tethered to a pump on the vehicle. Additionally, the industry has introduced innovative construction techniques, including the use of forged blades, resulting in tools that are both stronger and more durable. Further, advances in ergonomics have been prioritized, allowing rescuers to use these tools for extended durations with reduced fatigue. The fire department has conducted a comprehensive assessment of our current equipment and thoroughly evaluated various market options. After careful consideration, the battery operated tools from Genesis Rescue Systems have emerged as the optimal choice due to their competitive pricing to the HGAC Cooperative Purchasing Program, which we joined via Resolution 2425, and Genesis' strong reputation for reliability and effectiveness. While other extrication equipment providers are available through HGAC, Genesis, the manufacturer of our current equipment, has demonstrated consistent reliability in our operations over the past 20 years. Additionally, these tools are designed for seamless integration with the current battery-operated tools that we have in the fire department, utilizing a more standardized approach. Further, the widespread use in surrounding communities will facilitate seamless rescue operations through automatic mutual aid responses. This investment will significantly enhance our operational readiness and improve emergency response time in critical situations benefiting our community and visitors. The new extrication tools cost $154,993. The fire department has allocated $165,000 within our capital budget for this fiscal year, allowing the department to stay within budget and utilize the remaining funds to install this equipment on our current apparatus. Also, Genesis Rescue Systems has indicated that their price will increase by 10% effective January 1 of 25. For the reasons listed, I recommend that the mayor and village board approve the purchase of the rescue tools from EMC, utilizing the HGAC Cooperative Purchasing Program. Once ordered, we can expect a delivery lead time of approximately 100 days.
Thank you so much. Since Trustee Daggett asked for this to be pulled off, we'll start with Trustee Daggett.
Yep, thank you for presenting, and for the record, I'm fully in favor of getting this tool. I was able, it was probably been 2-3 months ago, I was able to see one of those units compared to the old unit that we have, it's cable basically. So a couple of questions that I had is, first off, like it's totally needed, but that's a really big number. So I just thought it was worth having a conversation of why do these things cost so much? Is it the materials that they're made of, the number of fittings that have to be put on it to do all of the things that we need to do?
So it pretty much goes back to technology. So the technology that we currently have is extremely outdated. The technology in the current tools that we're looking to purchase will allow us to be mobile. So it will not make us tethered within 70 feet of our apparatus. So currently, the apparatus we have, we can't go more than 70 feet away from that without running out of hydraulic hose. These tools will utilize the battery that we can get at a local hardware store and allow us to go anywhere with them. So it increases our ability to use them not only for auto extrication, but it will allow us to use them for fire suppression.
Okay. And so with the batteries, so I know batteries are the thing that go bad. Do they give a timeline on how long they expect the battery to last before we have to replace the batteries themselves?
That's a great question. So currently with the battery operated tools we have, we've found and put in a capital cycle every 5 years of replacement for those batteries. So that will allow us to stay current and decrease our downtime of any of our tools. So currently they're staying about 5 to 7 years with 5 years.
And are these units easily serviceable compared to the old ones?
So yeah, so these tools that are proposed for purchase have technology inside of them that notify the EMC or Genesis that our tools are due for service. Or if we have a catastrophic failure on a call, it will automatically notify them, which then they would reach out to us for service. That technology is not something we have, and that's one of the benefits of learning this tool. Also, currently in the operating budget, yearly, we have annual maintenance for all of our excavation tools. Of course, EMC comes out, services our tool, takes it apart, puts it back together. And that's kind of what we're running into those along with.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and it's kind of like the oil change places, they say every 3,000 miles, and usually we can get a lot more, but I think 28 years is a little excessive compared, it's been a long time, so. But I would anticipate, or would it be safe to anticipate that we'll get more than 10 years out of one of these units?
Currently, the EMC or Genesis is stating that the tools have about a 10-year life.
So we'll just stick with what they're saying. So plan for that.
Correct, and that's why we put it in the capital sector, so that.
Okay, great. Those were my questions. I appreciate the conversation. Thank you.
Trustee Lockton. Just one quick question. I'm curious, how long does the charge on the units last?
If we get out into the field, depending on the size battery that's in the tool, we can last anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes. And a lot of that depends on what we're doing with the tool, the amount of strength that we're cutting or spreading.
So, you have an extra battery at least?
Yes, so we have a lot, so each of the vehicles in the fire department have quite a bit of batteries on them, which is why we put them in the capital center, so we don't need to hold around in the future. But yes, we do have a bunch of batteries on each vehicle.
Trustee Michaels.
They were around by more. It's hard to, I'm with Gary, it's hard to imagine something that's the size of a concrete saw costing that much, but I know we need it, and I know it's a long overdue, so.
Trustee Mustafa. Thank you for presenting.
Thank you.
Trustee Brandenstadt.
Yes, I just had maybe one or two questions as it pertains to the report. I think it was very informative. You mentioned that we are 5 standards behind according to the NFPA guidelines. Do we have any certifications with them where we are supposed to be compliant, or is our certifications or any type of relationship we have or standards that we set in jeopardy when we find ourselves behind standards?
No, they're regulatory, so they don't really have any implications to us if we're not in compliance. It's just what they do is they keep up with the technology and they make adjustments to the standards to account for new technology, not only with the tool but in the places that we're going to be using those also.
Thank you very much.
All right, if there are no further questions, Clerk Gabowich, please call it.
Trustee Lockton.
Yes.
Trustee Mitchell.
Yes.
Trustee Mustafa.
Yes.
Trustee Bradley Scott. Trustee Daggett.
Yes.
Trustee Driscoll.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you so much. We don't have any formal commission reports, but I would like to thank the Green Commission for the trees that they provided at Oktoberfest and another successful recycle palooza. Also want to thank the Art Commission for the wonderful Saturday morning stroll of the sculpture park. It was beautiful. Can I get a motion to approve the resolution approving the purchase of a sculpture reaching for the sky?
So moved. Second.
Thank you so much. And we have Mrs. Charlene Gordon here to present from the Art Commission and Mr. Michael Cheney. Welcome.
Hi, I'm just going to introduce Charlene real quick. As you know, the Public Art Commission has had a very busy year already with 4 installations, one in Levitt Park, Flossmoor Park, the Library Lawn, and in Ballantyre Park. 2 sculpture restorations have taken place, one in Levitt Park, one in Heather Hill Elementary School. Plus, we've had fundraisers that have earned approximately $9,000 to date. Now the Commission is asking you to consider purchasing a well-loved rotational piece made by a female artist that is otherwise set to leave the village this fall. Here to tell you more is a longtime Commissioner, Flossmoor resident, and artist herself, Mrs. Charlene Gordon.
Welcome, thank you.
I've been up here for quite a while, but I want to say good evening to all of you. My name is Charlene Gordon, and I'm a resident of Flossmoor on Evans Road for over 65 years. I have a degree at Northwestern University in art education. I had an art school with over 90 students per week when I lived in Chicago. I am a painter and a welder of sculpture. And I have had numerous young women shows as well as as exhibitions in different places. I was an original member of the Flossmoor Art Commission, which started in 1997. Each person on the commission is extremely knowledgeable about the art. This evening, Michael Chen, who is an incredible artist, is also here. Incredible painter. And we also have the curator from the at the Manilow Gardens, who's on our commission. So we really have some experienced, enthusiastic, wonderful people on our group. We have a piece of sculpture in the park on Engelberg, which has been on loan for 3 years. The loan has expired, and you have the option of purchasing this piece. The commission has unanimously voted to buy this brightly colored blue and yellow sculpture. The original price of this piece was $15,000. I was able to negotiate the price down to $7,000 because she liked being in the Flossmoor collection and being near Richard Hunt's sculpture. She admires his work greatly and feels honored to be part of the group. The Art Commissioner had a fundraiser and we raised enough to purchase this sculpture. I am asking for your approval to proceed with this purchase. It would be a tremendous addition to our wonderful collection, and it's been there now for 3 years. And I have watched in the park, when I go there, how many people sit at the benches on both sides and just relax and enjoy that piece. We had a tremendous crowd coming from junior high school after school, and they come and they sit down there, they have something to eat, they visit. But that is a very comforting spot there, and that's why I feel so strongly that we should have this piece as part of our collection. Thank you.
I just want to add a couple of words. I want to thank Troy for his comments earlier today. I love his passion, and he's one of the few people that come to our meetings from the village. We very much appreciate that, and few we're on as well. I think he's right. We probably owe him and the board here a statement of how we decide where to put our sculptures. We haven't done that yet because we have enough trouble among ourselves trying to decide where we want to put the next piece, and we do owe board that, and I think ourselves that as well. I think he's right about having a passion for the art of Flossmoor. I think in terms of this particular piece, I would recommend that we go ahead and get it because of the tremendous work that Charlene's done in getting such an excellent price on it. And if we don't, we'll end up with an empty pad, and we'll need to replace it with a rotational sculpture, which will cost approximately half of what this piece costs us. So this piece would be not terribly expensive maintenance-wise because it's painted, and one of us, which I do myself often, can touch up any small problems that happen. So I would stand with Charlene and recommend it. I would also say to Troy, I agree we need to come up with a statement, and I will bring that to the commission at the next meeting on that.
Thank you so much. And Mr. Cheney didn't toot his own horn. Chicago Artist of the Year, how many years?
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah,
Pretty impressive. And Vince Vaughn owns a piece of yours? I've heard of him. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mrs. Gordon, for all the work that you've done and just the amazing amount of art you've brought to the village through your contacts and through your due diligence. Always carrying a piece of Flossmoor with you as you travel and try to find the perfect piece for the perfect place, which is not an easy thing to do. It takes a lot of work, and this particular piece, it's just gorgeous the way it changes as you're doing a full 360 around it, and every view is different and interesting, and it's quite beautiful. So I will ask for comments from the board. Trustee Driscoll.
I'll just echo the mayor's comments to both you and Charlene when it comes
unbelievable job you've done since the beginning. You know, we really appreciate it. I love that piece of art too. I find it very relaxing when I'm walking through there, and I fully support your goal of making it a permanent part of the collection. And you've already raised the money for it, so congratulations.
Thank you. Trustee Lawton.
Well, let me start by saying thank you, Mrs. Gordon, for your initiation of this fund commission. It means a lot to the village. And in saying that, I can also say that in the years that I've been here, 19 now, in this town, I've seen the culture grow. And indeed, people do consider that in their choice of moving to Flossmoor. I've heard people say that it's a beautiful town because of the art. And to my neighbor Troy Holmes, I honestly believe that he's onto something. That now we have all of this great art and we're willing to spend $7,000 for a piece. We need to spread that around the whole town. And Levitt Park is beautiful, I love it too. But there are other parts of the village that will benefit from this fine culture. And people now want any consideration of that moving forward. We get money.
I also want to thank all of you because really, all of you and I share a very strong feeling of love and dedication to this beautiful, beautiful community that we're in. And I have to agree with you. There have been people who have said to me they were looking for a place to live, and they came into Flossmoor and they saw the sculpture around, and I said, this is such a cultural place. I think what a wonderful place to live. And that makes me feel very proud that we have this fabulous place. And I do want to say, in answer to Troy and to all of you, because I think it is important for you to know that the important thing was to have sculpture within the park and within the village so that whoever comes into our village, let it be to shop, to go to the library, the post office, the food, wonderful restaurants, have a place to come and they see sculpture there. I mentioned that the young people, all of us who have had children, have gone to that junior high, and to see them coming out, and very often I see children playing all around through there, and it's rewarding, it's exciting for me to see this. And another thing, we have started a pop-up discussion group, which is really like a dosing program, in which we have twice a year, 3 times a year, we have gatherings at the different sculpture, and we talk about them, and we walk from one place to the next. And because they're located so perfectly, we can wander from the village and all through to the park, or sometimes we start with the newest pieces on Western Avenue, on Flossmoor Road, and then walk around and go through the viaduct and continue with the girl looking up at the sky, and then we go to the piece of sculpture of the children in the city there called the Secret Garden, and we discuss every piece that we are there to tell people about it. And it has made a world of difference. And that is why I know there's been discussion about putting art all over the community, but I think it makes it much easier to have an area where people can walk from one place to the next and see the art when they come into the village or when they walk through the park. And that's why it's been the way it has been. We are always open to new suggestions, but I wanted you to understand the reason for having it that way, because originally, when the group was started in 1997, a woman gave, get ready, $300,000 for us to build a park for sculpture. And that's how it all started, and that's why we started with the sculpture in the park area, and we've spread our wings to the village because we feel that's where people go. We want. We don't want a piece to be out and way out to be in my. I have two wonderful corners. Why aren't they at my place or at somebody else's place? Then it's hard for everybody to see what we have. So that is the reason I have really felt fairly strongly about trying to keep the sculpture within an area so that people can flow and walk from one to the other. And so I wanted to answer that question. And I thank all of you for that. And I've had the opportunity to do this.
Thank you, Trustee Majors.
We certainly have a distinguished art group, and I thank you all very much. It's been great. I was here in 1997, and I, believe it or not, with Roger, after we got to 350,000 from, you know who, and it was, you're exactly right. It was always meant to be kind of a central area so people could walk around. We bought the Shea downtown that we're looking up, the Beasley out in front here, and you know it was never meant to neglect anyone. It was kind of meant to be a big flower in the beautiful center of town, so people could walk around. You're exactly right, and I guess we've gotten away from it, and it's not a bad thing. I mean, it's good to have art everywhere. The thing that I'm always amazed by, though, and I think you guys do a great job, and I'm in favor of this, and I support you all. You raise the money. It's a beautiful sculpture, but the kids that I always see that are so amazed by the artwork and they're so intrigued by it. It's, you know, I mean, I enjoy it, and I enjoyed it ever since my son told me how I should look at it and what I should do and what I should think. But sometimes it takes a kid telling you what to do to open your eyes.
Yeah.
And so you're exactly right, and that was the initial onset. And I just thank you all, and I'm definitely in favor of what you're doing here. Keep raising money.
Thank you, Trustee Mustafa.
Thank you. I've probably said it 3, if not 4 times, that in so many words, art is life. And anyone who knows me, and if you've come to my home, you'll understand when I say that. So I thank you. My mother was an artist, so I appreciate all that you're doing and support what you're doing. But I would like to ask some questions, and they could be hard questions. We know that art's intrinsic value is not its value on the marketplace. You know, we appraise, and it's worth $15,000 or $100,000. If no one will buy it at that cost, it's a piece of paper, and you know this. So if the artist heard from you that the piece was going to be purchased but placed away from the hunt, what would be her response?
There's another reason also. When I spoke with her, she was not willing at the very beginning to make a change. She felt that she would take the piece back, but she couldn't get $15,000 for it. And I said to her, you know, if this were in a gallery, you would only get 50% of what you're asking. Am I correct on that? Okay. And I said, you have to understand that your piece will be seen by so many people, and we all admire it. And I said, you do know it's right next to the Richard. She said, Richard Hunt, oh my God, he's my most favorite. So that was how it was put. It wasn't that she said, oh, I want to be here because of Richard Hunt.
So my second question is, if we purchased it and a year later we moved it, would that matter?
I would be sad because I think it's in such a great location.
Well, aside from your feelings,
That's
and I respect your feelings, but aside from your personal feelings, if we purchased it and moved it a year later, the artist would have nothing to say about that.
No, they have nothing to say. And usually, if something gets moved, it's moved because it maybe didn't work out well in that particular location. That we didn't give the thought process of what would be around there, and what would grow, and what would do. But
and that's
truly,
why
we do give great thought when we placed it in that spot.
And I don't dispute that. I was a little surprised, and please correct me, but when I emailed you recently, Bridget, you expressed that the comments made by the board asking asking for a written document to articulate the process and the decision-making, and you replied to me that it wasn't, so to speak, official, because it was just comments. Do we need to have a motion? Do we need to have an agenda item and vote on it if our comments do not direct the commission?
This evening is the first time I'm hearing that direction came from the February 19th board meeting, and I have to go back and take a look at those minutes. I think I was present for the basin discussion at another meeting, and so I don't have that information readily at the tip of my tongue. But generally speaking, you know, if the direction would have to come, should come from the board through some sort of consensus discussion. Does it need to be formal? Not necessarily, as far as an agenda item or something of that nature. But my comments were really with respect to a comment or suggestion by one individual versus direction from the village board.
And I can speak on that too. That was on the discussion of Paradise, correct? I think that was the discussion we had at that meeting. So that was, it wasn't a consensus from the board asking for that direction, which we could have clarification on, and we can talk more about that. But
So the details notwithstanding, I accept your memory of it. I'd like to table a decision on this piece until we can have it on the agenda and a motion put forward to create a directive to the commission to document the way they have made this decision. And we understand a lot of thought goes into it. You are passionate about art. I know you put a lot of thought into it. But sometimes change is difficult. I was recently asked to let my mother's work travel. And change is difficult. I do not want to let it go. It will break, you know. So I understand that feeling and I hold it deeply. But I do feel that with the change we're seeing, and it's a positive change, we're seeing more interest in the art, we're seeing more appreciation in the art, we're seeing more understanding of the art. And with that in mind, especially with the understanding also that residents didn't live in all the communities we have now at the time, once upon a time, a long time ago, there were no residents to ask for art in their community. There wasn't the hue and cry for me too, me too. It's a positive thing that people are asking. So I'm asking to table a vote on the placement of this sculpture, the purchase of it, until we have placed on the agenda a discussion of directing the commission to create a document which helps us understand the decision making and gives the board a chance to weigh in on how it's done.
Thank you. I'd like to recognize Trustee Mustafa for your motion to table this. Out of respect for the other two trustees who have not had a chance to ask any questions, I'd like to ask for their comments before asking for a second on that motion. Trustee Garvisca.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I really enjoyed it, and I could see the passion as both of you spoke about this piece and other pieces that you have brought before us. I, for one, I'm still I would say, a second grader in terms of my artistic abilities. And I'm sure there are a lot of second graders who can do much better than me and are very poetic with their art. So let me be clear on that. But I really do appreciate how passionate that you are, and I imagine when I see the art pieces around our town, I see it multiple ways depending on the day that I'm having. I see different things, different colors, and so it just really brings life to the community, and I really, really appreciate the hard work that goes behind it. Especially when, as it was explained in another meeting, how the art comes to you in different formats, and you have an eye on what different communities, what placements are more appropriate. So I definitely appreciate that. I, too, thought that in our last meeting, when we were speaking about the piece that ended up, Paradise, maybe, that we were moving toward a direction where there was some type of rubric so that we could determine where the art pieces would go best. And that is, again, not, I think you all know better than anyone, where a good placement would be given the untrained eye that, I'll speak for myself, that I have. However, it would help us out a lot to be equitable in the placement if we have that type of information so that we are spreading the joy around the community. And it was also helpful to hear the, how the garden was started and the centralized location. I think it may have been mentioned previously, but to see how our community has grown in the desire for art and the commission's willingness to expand. And so when you continuously set the bar and make improvements, those are things that people enjoy and like to see coming. So I'm hoping that we can move in a direction with that as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Trustee Davis.
Yeah, so I'm a maker and a poet, so I appreciate art. Not gotten into sculpture, but my son also started welding, so I'll probably dabble in that too. But I also really appreciate the work that the commission has done. The thing about art is it will bring conversation, it will bring controversy, it will bring disagreement, sometimes argument, and on the rare occasion it brings everybody agreeing without a doubt on one thing. That's very rare. So it's a tough job, and I understand that. I do appreciate your acknowledgement of Mr. Holmes and his concerns today. I think that's very valuable to listen. And I don't personally think that it has to be mutually exclusive, that we either have a world-class sculpture park or world-class art within the community spread apart. It creates obstacles, things that we have to overcome, things we've got to figure out. And I think we've got a lot of talent both in the commission and then I think also in the community. I think we can work together and come up with solutions and make it good for everybody involved. I definitely don't oppose tabling. I think I would just have a few questions with it. So if I could ask, can I ask a quick question? Is your intent with the tabling for a date specific to say that to bring this back up for vote, what you would like to see is the direction given to them or the fulfillment of the direction before we vote on it? Just so I'm clear.
Again, there might be a process that I'm missing, but what I'd like to see is that the commission comes back to us with at least a draft. And like we table it until they can get their thoughts together. And I understand it's not easy. Artists, they're artists, right? So it's not easy and you all have your own ideas of how things should be, which is fair. But I'd like us to have something to read and discuss and decide how to move forward based on what they envision as the process for placing art.
Yeah, and I'm fully in favor of having that in front of us. My only concern is that there's time constraints where if because our meetings today, when is your next meeting? And then how long is that going to take? And is it possible that if we wait for them to come back with the draft to our next meeting?
I think you just said a week.
A week, okay. That was my concern, to make sure that, we're not missing the opportunity.
And is there a time limit on the artists being willing to?
That was my question. How long do we have to actually make a decision on the
I
purchase?
would have to say, from my experience, the first pieces to the second piece, you cannot wait forever because there's always somebody else who's interested. I have seen a number of pieces of sculpture that I really, really thought was great for the community, and artistically and with meaning, they were important. But they weren't going to bring their things to Flossmoor until they had their money or they knew that it was going to be theirs. You have to understand, these artists, they spend so much time making something, and money is important to them, and they can't wait. I had one that, it was at the Clinton Art Show in Highland Park. I wanted that piece so badly for the community. It was so right. And I said, would you bring it out? I'm sure they're going to love it. I'm sure they're going to want it. He says, no, I'm not going to do that. He said, I'm taking it back home unless I have Absolutely, yes, I would do it. And I could understand that. In all the years that I exhibited and pieces that I sold, I never had anyone say to me, let me think about it, because I want to find out a little bit more how you make your choices. I don't do that.
No, I understand the piece is here already, and if we express clearly that we're very interested. However, we need to talk about certain aspects of the purchase. Because the pieces here would cost the artist money to remove it. It would be a chunk, a substantial piece of their, cash to come, take it away from its spot, physically move it. I think we have a better chance of buying some time than we would if in your case, which I'm very familiar with, it's a brand new piece that you're trying to acquire.
Yeah, and my feeling on that, I would agree with that. I don't want to drag it out so much that we lose the opportunity. That was my concern with it. So if there was a compromise where, like if your meeting's in a week and you're able to bring a framework, knowing that this document that is going to be prepared is going to be kind of a living, changing thing as we grow and as things change. If there was a commitment from the commission to fulfill the request, and that that's going to be ongoing, and maybe we had a date, like we could say we would really like a final copy by this time, but then allow us to feel comfortable moving forward with some of the other things we've expressed, to go ahead and get the piece, knowing that moving forward we'll handle these things with a little bit more transparency, I should say, and there's just a little bit more clarity. Even thinking about, okay, what do we choose for something that's going in? What are criteria for the sculpture park? What's criteria for something in the neighborhood? How do the finances work with that? How do we make sure there's equity in that? Each neighborhood's getting something that fits, which is the hardest part first of all, but then also is fair and reasonable across the board. Which I know this isn't like we're asking you to take on a whole new level.
I don't think that's really the responsibility, Gary. I just, I don't think we say to the board, you come up with this rubric. Where did a rubric come from? I'm not even sure. I kind of know what you're talking about, but I think that if we want something like that, that more comes from this board that sets policy, not them. A rubric, I don't know. Tell me what that means. If you know something specifically, we can't just say to them, you have lives. Take a couple months and work on it. We've had this thing running for 26, 27 years.
If I can reclaim my time.
Have a discussion and they
Tell
already.
us what you want.
If I can reclaim my time, please.
Yeah.
With all due respect to everybody up here, we're not experts in art. Right? I think what my understanding of what's being asked, and at least this is my intent and what I'm asking, is if you have a process, whatever that process is that you currently go through, even if you're like, we sit down at the table and yell at each other for an hour to figure out what we're going to get, and then we, whatever it is, tell us what that is so we know how you're going about it. Then it's our job as a board, if I'm correct, if I'm out of line, just tell me and I'll shut up. It is to say we're directing them on how they operate. So if that's how they're going about it, are there things that we would like to ask them to tweak? I don't want to tell you how to choose art, but I do think that there has been enough concern expressed by some of the community just to make sure we just want to know how you're doing it. How's the sausage made? So
That's a lot different than come up with this great plan, this rubric, change it, which you really haven't the power to do. It's all set within this board, we set it. But, it kind of impresses me because we're talking about this. Half the time there's a fire out there. They've got a piece that's going away and they have to come up with something. So it's kind of like you got a gun at your head all the time and then you have to come. I don't mind knowing more about how the process works, but I don't want you to change everything. Maybe come before us and talk about it. But then if someone on this board has a plan, a great rubric that they want to come up with, then bring it before the board and we'll vote on it.
I think the first thing, what we're asking for, so that, because again, I don't know what the process is.
No,
I've been through a couple of meetings.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
if we know, if they can bring to us and say, this is how we currently do it, and then I think it can spark a conversation on, are there things that we feel like need to be improved or maybe done a little bit differently? Again, I'm not trying to infiltrate the art commission and tell you how to do things. It's not my expertise.
So they should come from us, but I interested to know how you do things, but then we'll make a decision.
I think
So
we're
I guess my
all
question,
saying
yeah.
that.
I think it's a separate agenda item where,
Right.
where we're
kind of agreeing. You know, this is not hooked to the other discussion. It should be hooked to the other discussion. Most people are in favor of this, it sounds like. And we should deal with this, and that maybe put it on the agenda another time, have these guys work on it for a while, and come back, and then we can have a board discussion on it, maybe vote or get our direction as a board. My recollection of that meeting back, was it February? Was, you know, some people, there was a lot of comments coming from other committees. They weren't necessarily coming from the board. And, so I don't think there was a consensus on the board for this. You call it a rubric, whatever you want. But I think we had the discussion, but we have it with the intent of having that discussion. These guys should be prepared to have that discussion. I would rather go ahead today, with the agenda item that is, and then come back the second time as a group, discuss it, with the board, for the art commission's, preparation for that discussion.
I'm sorry, the assistant manager, village manager, Perry, wanted to say something.
Yeah, I was wondering if Commissioner Cheney might be able to talk a little bit about the process, specifically how many pieces are submitted, and what, I know that being a staff liaison or a fund liaison is that there's only so many pieces that are submitted through this process, and sometimes you have a couple pieces submitted, and sometimes you have a very few number in different years. Also that you're taking those few number of pieces and that you're trying to find if they would work in a location. Also, the cost of them is, when you were looking for donations and those different things, how those parts of this process, if you can kind of talk to the board about this, because I think if there's a method to this, I think that's what the board's asking for, and that's something that as staff liaisons we probably have kind of experienced of, why is this unique for the village? Because your process is unique, and this whole thing is unique because I don't know another village who manages their own sculpture garden or anything like that. It's usually a 501(c) that's separate, or a park district, or what have you. So I think what Trustee Mitros is asking, and everyone's asking a little bit, is if you can shed a little bit of light to how this process is, and how these pieces come to you, and why you made go to this decision. This is a matter of process. I think it would be helpful for the group, if not at this meeting, in a future meeting.
Could I add a comment before he answers that?
Oh, sorry,
Because it
sure,
may help
Trustee
in this
Lawson.
discussion. And I want to make it clear that if there is to be some sort of explanation of a plan, which we do not have, and we're all basically asking for, I'm going to be specifically saying that plan should include some idea, some way, some channel to putting art in places other than that. Whatever the plan is, it should include that. And I'm not saying that I want to hold one piece of art hostage in this process. I'll move forward on that. But that plan has to be involved. Whatever you have to say.
To answer the question, one of the things we have that is very attractive to other artists are the pieces like the Richard Hunt piece, the BC piece, the Shea piece. They are such significant artists and other artists that want to be associated with us, and it helps us. The other thing that helps us is the collection, the Governor State, the McNamara collection. It is considered one of the 5 top collections in the country, and almost any list you can see. It is a very important collection of sculpture. It's a wonderful walk, and people have done that. I would recommend that we have this magnificent collection. We're lucky in that the person that runs that collection is on our commission, and he's actually brought us a few pieces that we given to the Village of Flossmoor, really because they were trying to get into the Manalo Park, and he kind of steered them to Flossmoor, so we're very lucky on that. Putting this document together won't be easy for our group. We are a group of artists, and the challenge is that we all have different ideas of how we want to structure the collection. Troy's been at some of the meetings, you might see in the back and forth we go through to make those decisions. I believe we can come up with a document. I think it'll be close to what Trustee Daggett was talking about maintaining the collection as a strong downtown presence and trying to get satellite pieces in other parts of the village. But I think too, the idea of breaking up the downtown collection and spreading it out would work against what Flossmoor is having grown with at this point, because a collection is recognized. The only other village around Chicago that has anything like what we have is Skokie. I recommend that anybody that hasn't seen it go to the Skokie Social Park. Now, they have decided to put it all in one area, and they haven't started out at all in the village, so that they have a very powerful sculptural collection all put together in one spot. That's their philosophy. We're more open, we haven't started out more than Skokie does, but I think to spread it out everywhere, you lose the impact. It has power, and one of these juxtaposed against another.
Well, I can tell you one neighborhood where I would disagree with that. Okay, I'm going to be very honest with you. I think moving art in front of people has changed in years. It really has. People have become interested. You're always looking for funds. Here's one way to attract funds. Put art in the neighborhoods. We got space. We're a small village, but we have space.
We also have a tradition of a certain, if you could hypothetically say there are 1, 2, 3 levels of artists, okay? Top tier, renowned, recognized, then emerging, starting to be recognized, and then artists that are local, artists that are more affordable, but their art is just as compelling. So perhaps, just a thought, if you could create a tier that says we can afford a piece for $1,000 because it's an emerging artist, you just never know. You know, I have a recent memory of a friend who bought a piece for $100 and she's now holding a $15,000 work of art. She was trying to help a starving, struggling artist. You have an eye, other members have an eye. You can say, there's potential here. What if we can acquire it at $500 just to help somebody who's trying to make ends meet and buy more materials? I think we need to consider that type of approach to get more art at a better price point, to help some artists, to get more diverse artists represented. Because Black and brown artists can be struggling in our local community, where someone who's made it is going to say, buy it at $7,000 instead of $15,000. How many of those can we afford?
I think the first thing we have to do is figure out every pad we have in town, where they are, and then go from there. And, because I don't even know where they all are, but we need to figure out where they are and then base everything on that.
So if I could, I agree with Trustee Lofton that I don't want to hold hostage peace. But it sounds like the board is in agreement at some level of getting a directive together that we can give the commission to bring us back that information that we were wanting. So I know Trustee Mustafa had asked to table it. Would a compromise be that if we had a commitment from the board tonight to ask to give direction to the village manager to prepare something that we vote on as a directive for the commission in our next meeting for this, that we go ahead and move forward tonight, knowing that we're going to give that directive coming forward, and that way we can kind of grease the wheels on this one, but also get this conversation started in the future.
I don't think we should hold this particular piece in hostage. I agree with you, because we now are thinking maybe we want to do a different direction and how to choose the art. But if anybody would have said that, and Pablo Picasso held up a piece, and everyone said, well, we want to think about how you're thinking about having this piece. You know, that's not going to work that way with art. You go to these auctions and you're blown away by the prices of what was a Picasso, and at $50,000 is $200,000 for a little piece that is just a print or a drawing. You have no idea of what the market is like right now. It's crazy. It's high. I mean, I don't know, Rosalind, if you realize that the art market is unbelievably high at this point.
No,
when we
I
have a
do,
piece
thank
of
you.
art, wait, just a moment, when we find a piece of art, there's a lot of conversation behind it. First of all, most we put out signals for artists to send in letters, say they're interested, and they show us their work. Other times, I might be down in Florida and I see an artist's work that I think would be terrific for the community. I talk to him, I talk to his representative, and the next thing you know, we have that wonderful red-orange piece that's near the Gorman House. There are so many stories that I could tell you and how those pieces were obtained and what we went through. And would we be able to sit down and try to figure out why we like the secret garden? What was it about the secret garden that made us say, we have to have that? Or the Judith shade reaching up to the sky? How did we know we really? How do you figure out and how do you discuss how you like something? Or if your mother had an opportunity to sell a piece of work, they want to know an understanding of this and that. No, it doesn't work that way. It really doesn't. And because we are a committee that is so accomplished, really, we have, all of us are very involved in the arts. We know the artists. If you don't know the artists, if we talk about it, we learn about the artists, but we're also interested in the design and how it's made and what we think about it. So it has nothing to do with this piece, but generally speaking, I don't know how you're going to sit there and expect us to come up with a plan to say, this is why we're choosing all our art, because we think it should have this. We give so much thought to design, to how it goes. If you've ever gone to any of the docent pieces we get, these pop art pieces, and we go, say the secret garden, we're looking at two children sitting on a bench and reading. What does that mean? That if I told you that every curve and every line of the arm of clothes is all pulled down to the book, which is the secret garden, and they are so related. Now, that has nothing to do with saying, well, this is why we bought it, because it had all these lines and stuff by this fellow named Ron Dean, and he's very well known. No, we buy and choose art, and then we vote on it. It doesn't mean that all of us aren't going to like it. There's so much fun, and I wanted you to understand that, because I haven't spoken to all of you in a very long time. But I will tell you, of all the pieces that I've seen come and go, and there are many that left, we have the most incredible piece of art out of our bio by an artist named Gino Miles. It was a large piece, and it turned. It was spectacular. Well, we wanted $60,000 for it, which we couldn't afford. We enjoyed it for 3 years, and I honestly feel we got it into the community because I knew him from different shows that we had both been in. And I contacted him even now. He sold that piece for $130,000. Now we're not buying pieces so that we can sell them for more, but we're looking at pieces that give design, quality that we want. And believe me, you don't know what we go through with these meetings till we choose a piece. So a lot of thought goes into
I think that there should take some, perhaps there's some guidance from Skokie, from Manilow, just to get you started, because they have established gardens. I'm not saying it'll be easy, and I'm not disputing the subjective artistic decision making. But since you do know Skokie is established, we know Manilow is, they may give you a start.
And we also look at, you give us some context in terms of what Mr. Holmes mentioned in terms of the $7,000 and how much we spend over the year or how much we are able to raise over the year. That will give us a lot of context, I think, as well, to help make the decision that this is the right decision, for me anyway.
Well, we do have the money, we raised more money, and we're not buying it because, or wanting to have it because she went down from 15 to 7. but she did it for us, and I really love the piece. I think it's well done, it's beautifully placed. You know, in that garden, there's mainly stainless steel, silver, and then the jacks down at the other end are brown. And this is the only piece that's colorful in that whole area. And I think it's such an important piece for the beauty of our community that I hate to see it go. And I had promised her in September we would be able to tell her. I can't go back and say to her, well, the board wants to talk about how it's made and whatever. I don't blame her if she would want to come and take it. And they probably come and take it. It's not expensive for them. But what I'm trying to say to you, I feel if you say that we should wait and hold off, then we might as well say goodbye to the piece. Because I would be embarrassed to call her and say, listen, we're trying to decide how we make the decision.
Thank you so much.
I can't do that.
Trustee Daggett had an interesting idea to move forward with the piece and then talk about how the process, how the sausage is made, having a commitment from the Art Commission to do that. And I think you gotta keep in mind, this also takes staff time too. It's not just volunteer hours, but it's also staff time. And how do we want to direct staff to spend their time? Is this really where we want staff to be dedicating a lot of time? And this is not something that is just, they can figure out in the next week. I think it will take multiple discussions. This is a month-long effort to come up with something that is presentable to the board, that you can digest and discuss. And it's also, it's hard to put a rubric on the creative process, as you mentioned earlier, so.
Rubrics may be too restrictive, but let's not even use that word anymore. Let's just say, selecting our guidelines or approach, but maybe there can't be a rubric, we can't assign them,
I think before we start assigning the commission task, the board has to be in agreement on what we're asking, and we could talk about that for the next 2 hours. We're not. You can't just individually give them directions. Nobody here can. We have to do this as a board and be in agreement. So we need to have a discussion on that, and then maybe go back. You guys kind of working on your end. Let's come back and have a discussion. We get a consensus, and go from there. All right, we're all in agreement on that.
So we can all agree that we'd like to see how the sausage is made.
Correct.
Yes?
Correct.
Yeah.
But we're not putting the individual, one-on-one, this has to be done by this date. We want you guys to kind of get your thoughts together on this and come back in front of us. Does everybody kind of agree with that?
Yes. Yeah. And I think from my perspective, what my suggestion entailed, and because Trustee Mustafa was the one that asked the table, if she would be opposed to moving forward with this one, but having a commitment from the board tonight that we say we're going to work toward giving a directive to the commission. Once we give that directive, they have to fulfill it. But we have to figure out what that looks like, which will take some discussion. But if they were able to have their meeting this next week and kind of have the discussion with the commission, say, hey, this is coming down the pipeline, so they kind of know. If they were able to even submit to us, even just a simple framework, hey, here's what we kind of do right now.
They haven't done that for any of the other pieces that
I'm
the
sorry.
commission chose. Cared about.
I'm sorry.
So that then with bringing that back, the board can say, okay, we're going to send a direction down, because that's the way this has to work. And if there's that commitment that we're going to give the directive, and they're committed to meet that directive, or at least start giving us the feedback on, hey, that's great, here's the obstacles to that. I think we have to start working through it. And that is a process, like Brian said. We can sit here and talk for 2 hours, and everybody's going to have a different opinion on it. So I don't want to hold this one hostage and potentially lose it, but at the same time, this is where I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think we can work on this, come up with a reasonable compromise on a lot of things, and get a directive to it that I think is reasonable for them, but also bring some of that transparency to the question.
Thank you.
Just one more thing.
Trustee Bradley's got this.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Sorry, Trustee Bradley.
I just wanted to. Hello? Okay, thank you. Just want to to bring up the fact that anytime the art commission is in front of us, this is one of our most discussed topics that comes before the board. And if we continue to have these discussions, then it means that there is something missing, there's something desired that would help us make your jobs or this art commission's task a little easier. And so I think if we had that information, the discussion that we have here will be minimized because we're all jiving in the same fashion. We can understand the language that each of us are asking, and we're all on the same page. So I just wanted to just underscore that every time the art commission comes forward, which we appreciate the background work that's done, but we spend a lot of our time. So far, we are probably at 40 minutes. So just wanted to point that out.
Trustee Mustafa, would you like to repeat your motion, or would you like to still make the motion?
Okay, I will defer to the majority request. My preference would be to not purchase this piece at the risk of losing it, because I feel that someone used the phrase earlier, kicking the can down the road. I feel there's no incentive. As Trustee Bradley Scott said, we talk about this over months. I feel there's no incentive to document or formalize the process because we continue to approve a piece or approve a location, and then the next time we have the same discussion. So my preference for the board would be, at the risk of losing this piece, and it will not be catastrophic, it really won't. We'll find another beautiful piece so that we can have something clearer, more clear to understand what we're doing with placement and purchase. $7,000 for one piece, in spite of the discount, is a lot of money considering the budget of the commission. So if if other 5 board members say, no, we want to move forward with it, I will defer to that. But my preference for the board would be stop right now and not move forward until we're clear with how the commission operates.
So you're taking your motion to table?
Yes,
off the table.
Off the table.
Motion to table off the table.
I'll make the motion to approve the purchase.
If there's no further comment, I'd like.
Can we modify the motion and say motion to approve with the requirement that the commission come back with?
No, except we already said we're gonna come back and have a discuss it.
There's consensus. So with that, Clerk Legallo, would you please call the roll on the motion, the pending motion, to approve the purchase of Reaching for the Sky?
Trustee Mitros.
Yes.
Trustee Mustafa.
Yes.
Trustee Bradley Scott. Trustee Daggett.
Yes.
Trustee Driscoll.
Yes.
Trustee Lofton.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your presentation. You must be exhausted, Mrs. Gordon.
Excuse me, Mayor. Can I ask for some clarification on our next steps? Because I heard several suggestions come forward, but I don't know as staff that we have clear direction on how you would like to proceed. And I heard discussion of asking the commission to document their current considerations when making a recommendation on a piece of sculpture. I've heard Village Board to discuss guidelines for selecting art, and I'll remind the board that you ultimately, as Trustee Mitros pointed out, get to make that decision. So you really could have that discussion amongst yourselves regarding the guidelines by which you'll consider the purchase of art, or some other iteration of what is going to happen about. So what exactly, from a staff perspective, what are our next steps?
I think what we're looking for is what are the considerations that are given to finding a piece and where that piece is placed.
I'd like to know where every location is in town is.
You can go around an inventory.
No, that's not my responsibility. They know, don't they?
But it is on us.
It's
on our
Okay, I want to list. And I'd also like to know the budget.
It's on our
The budget is.
There's budget information presented as part of that, and
Right.
In terms of how much each piece is given, can we give the full budget to a piece? Is it a quarter of the budget? Is it $1,000? How is that allocation determined?
And if they stop today, how much do we need to maintain that? How much every year?
That's what it means.
I'd like to know.
And what is the value of the art that we have now? I suppose you know that.
I would never question.
I don't think, I'm sorry, trustee Daggett.
For the sake of time.
For the sake of time, would we be able to do this, Bridget, through sending a blind email to the trustees, and we could put our requests back to you, and then maybe you come up with a list and we kind of all figure it out, rather than taking a lot of time to try to figure this out. And so you don't have to write 3 pages of notes.
Great.
I have enough here for us to be able to try to summarize this back to the board, and you can provide some additional input between now and the discussion.
Yep, that would be great. My only concern is that this isn't kicked down the road and can constantly, like, now that we got a piece, that this is now just drags on.
No, I think that's been made very clear. Thank you. Next up, can I get a motion to approve the creation of a full-time property maintenance inspector?
So moved.
Thank you so much. And we have Mr. Scott Bugner presenting.
Good evening. Building Department is recommending the creation of a full-time property maintenance inspector. Creating this full-time position for the role of property maintenance inspector would, in my opinion, be a prudent decision. As doing so would provide additional daily presence where more time can be dedicated in the field to ensure that the housing stock of our municipality is maintained to a high standard. Furthermore, the department currently has only 2 full-time staff. Creation of this position also provides depth in covering our operations by allowing for a career development path and educational opportunities for a future expanded role within the building department. This would include building inspection and plan review functions, as well as acquiring more advanced knowledge of the administration of the building department. Currently, part-time inspectors face challenges balancing field inspection time, maintaining records required, as well as attending adjudication proceedings due to the limited number of hours worked. This balancing act has an impact on the ability to adequately cover all areas of the village in any given day or week, and creating this position will increase coverage across the village. Currently, there's an annual budget of $44,631 for part-time property maintenance inspectors, of which the average annual expenditure has been approximately $20,000. One of the reasons that full budget utilization of this part-time maintenance position is not realized is the fact that one of our inspectors serves as a dual role as community service officer, where that inspector is often required to provide additional coverage in the CSO function. Hiring an additional part-time inspector to supplement existing staff has proved to be difficult given the nature of the position and the fact that it is only part-time. The recommended salary range of the position is $50,611 to $63,264, which is in line with our neighboring communities. Attached to this memo is a breakdown of budget impact for the remainder of fiscal year 25 that we incurred by creating a full-time position. The starting salary of $50,611, including French revenue, benefits under various insurance package scenarios, as well as an estimate for a full budget year. Staff has identified some options to offset budget impact, including the elimination of part-time building inspector position, which has an annual budget of $10,357, and implementing an annual contractor registration program, which is on the agenda tonight for discussion as well. We would request to reallocate the $10,357 to a single part-time property maintenance inspector position moving forward to supplement the full-time position as needed. I would respectfully request at this time the Mayor and Board of Trustees consider creating a full-time position of property maintenance inspector as presented. If approved, this position will be filled by a current primary part-time property maintenance inspector. Attached documents for your consideration that can't be asked. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Mr. Butler. Great presentation. I'll start with Trustee George Lofton.
We have the work, we have the experience and educated talent. I think that I'm in favor of making a full-time position.
Thank you. Trustee Meadows.
It's long overdue, and it's something that we need desperately, and I am fully in favor of this.
Thank you. Trustee Musa.
I also am in favor of this. I understand not only the need, but, the individual that will fill the role, so yes, I agree.
Trustee Bradley Scott.
Mayor, may I also add, item number 10 as part of my comment discussion regarding this position?
Sure. Mr. Butler alluded to that, so I can see what.
Thank you.
But we will have a separate discussion about it.
Sure. I too agree that, one of the reasons that people like to move here is because of the beautiful, presentation. And so the building department does help maintain, that regard, and so I support the position wholeheartedly. I just wanted to ask, in terms of how we're budgeting and moving funds around to make it make sense, the $25,000 for the annual, projection, is that based on projects that have currently been on the books for a year, 2 years, 3 years? Can you provide a little bit more context?
Basically, I'm looking at other communities and what they've taken in with the registration program. So, Lindyfield, for instance, similar community in size and the number of permits that they issue, they bring $30,000 annually.
So based on the number of permits that we have, because the permits.
It's not permits, it's the number of contractors that register for whole permit.
So, okay, so that's it.
And it's an annual registration.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you. Trustee Daniel.
Yeah, I'm in favor of it. I think, especially we've identified a candidate that would fill that role, that is trusted and has proven to do good work. And like Trustee Maestro said, I think this is kind of long overdue. You guys have been overloaded and overwhelmed for a bit. So I'm fully in favor of it. I think the numbers make sense to me. So yeah, I'm good.
Thank you. Trustee Driscoll.
Yeah, I'd just say I'm totally in favor of this. As we kind of discussed previously, the individual filled this role was well suited to it. Despite some of the things you see on social media about, this is the biggest, issue in town, whatever. I have more people contact me all the time, by email, phone, about property maintenance issues, which of course pass on to Bridget, pass on to you. So, we need to get going full time as soon as possible.
Thank you so much. Clerk Logano, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Mustafa.
Yes.
Trustee Bradley Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Daggett.
Yes.
Trustee Driscoll.
Yes.
Trustee Lofton.
Yes.
Trustee Mitris.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you so much. Next up is a discussion of the contractor registration program. And welcome back, Mr. Biden. It's been a while.
Alright, staff is recommending the implementation of an annual registration program for all contractors doing business within the Village of Flossmoor. Contractors are already required to provide the village with certain documentation, depending on the type of contractor, such as electrical, plumbing, roofing licenses, as well as security bonds before a permit can be issued. The department staff is tasked with maintaining that documentation to ensure that they remain up to date and valid. Village of Flossmoor is currently the only municipality in the surrounding area that does not issue contract registrations or licenses. Staff studied the registration licensing requirements of other municipalities regarding fees and submittal requirements. And while our submittal document requirements are generally akin to what the Village of Flossmoor currently requires, every other municipality in the area issues an annual registration or license for a fee. This is several communities around our average can be from anywhere from $50 to $300 for annual registrations. If you notice, Homewood, Madison, Olympia Fields are all $100. That would be my recommendation to start on an annual registration, which will run from January 1, December 31 of every year. Again, conservatively, my estimate initially would be $25,000 from this registration program.
And is the targeted program start January 1? If approved, it would be January 1 of
January 1, yes.
2025.
Yes.
I think this is just an incredibly creative way to improve our services in the building department and bring on that full-time employee that we desperately need. So thank you for finding money that we were leaving on the table, so to speak. I'll open it up for questions. Trustee Majors.
Do those, I think a lot of these villages, the permits run from January 1st through the end of the year. Is that how we're going to set it up?
Not for permits, just for the registration.
I mean, for the registration.
Yes, January 1, yeah.
Otherwise, it becomes a nightmare.
Yes,
Okay,
it's
good.
January 1, and there won't be any proration either. It's
Right,
January 1,
right.
that's it.
Come in July, it's $100.
That's right.
Everyone-
That's
okay,
right.
Good, very good. That's the way to do it.
Trustee Mustafa.
Another question, almost like a footnote to what Trustee Reverend Scott asked. Is this based on historically we've had this many contractors in Flossmoor in a year?
Again, it's based on, so the number of permits that we issue, you can't take every, so a lot of contractors, they might do a dozen or 15.
No, it's not based
permits
on
a
the
year,
number
so.
of permits, yeah.
So, yeah, we kind of add up how many contractors we have every year. It's comparable with what Olympic Fields does.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I took that estimate from, basically. And it's conservative, because they average over 30,000, so I think we're being conservative here.
Which is wise, I would think, yeah. Oh, so the second question is, do you see any trends of contractors moving up, that we have more? Is there more work that people are doing?
Well, I think our permits have been pretty steady over the last several years. We've been in the neighborhood of anywhere from 800 to 1,000 permits a year. And again, it depends on the economy and everything else.
And I understand you can't predict the future, but I just was wondering if there's been any trend.
Nothing substantial.
Okay, thank you, that's it, yeah. I do approve, I agree with this very much, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Brenda Scott.
You know, I just had maybe to add on, in terms of the list that you have, sometimes I come to the village to get a list of someone if I can't get a hold of the people that I normally use to see who else is in line. But do you, if you ever get complaints from residents about the service or the completion or anything, do people fall off the list that you would give out, or how do you handle that?
Generally, we will go after a surety bond or something like that, make sure if there's something shoddy work, we can attempt to go to the surety company and get some refund back to that permit holder for the owner of the property. And we've been successful in that.
That's a permit violation.
Yeah.
And then for clarification, that list reflects those who have frequently done business in the village. It's not an endorsement from the village,
Right, not an
or preferred
endorsement.
contractor
Correct,
list or
correct.
anything of that nature.
Definitely.
Thank you, Trustee Day.
All right, so I apologize for the time. This is my wheelhouse. So I'm a property inspector, so I'm kind of the same thing here. So I do have a couple of questions. A couple of them are legal, and a couple of them are just procedural. So with the contract registration list, we would obviously make it to where you have to be on that list to get a permit approved. Could that be punitive to where?
Scott Bubner did his own legal research to find the specific provision that absolutely authorizes us to do this.
So if someone comes and they have violated permits twice, we can't remove them from the registration list?
Have you had experience with that?
We haven't had a registration.
So, I'm not in terms of talking to other towns. The fact of the matter is, we could write that into the ordinance. The way to really do it is have a provision that they must work in conformance with all of our building codes, so that the real way is to bring them up to administrative adjudication and fine them, as well as require better surety should they come back. There's several ways, if you have this, that we could approach a contractor who
Well,
gives
they
us
would fail the
a
inspection.
Well, yeah, but it was,
Yeah, I mean, that's the surest thing.
Yeah, but there's things that, you know, you go through all these inspections, and between a rough electrical and drywall going up, they could do all kinds of fun stuff behind the walls, which I've found that he's not gonna be able to see when he goes back out, that maybe a year later, you know, the fire department unfortunately has to get called because something happens, and then we gotta go back and say, this was the fault of the person who did this, they are off the list. Or they're fined, and if anything happens again, if there's any violation, they're off the list and can't get permits. The reason I ask is because I've on more than one occasion, and I won't, for legal purposes, name names, but I've had companies in this village that I've come back behind them as residents have asked me to check something out, and they're flat out fraudulent companies. They're taking advantage of people, roofers, plumbers, electricians, all that I've had. So to me, something like a registration list, it's great for raising funds for the village to pay for this, but also I want to make sure it's actually working for our residents as well. So if it has teeth to it, great. Otherwise, it's just it's another $100 fee.
Well,
So
we will put the teeth in it, but teeth are limited. We're not home rule.
I understand that, and that's kind of what I'm trying to figure out is how far can our teeth get?
We can fine, we can absolutely, after a certain period of time, let them sue the village and stand up, you know, stand up for our residents.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. Another question is, can we require them that they be Illinois licensed?
They're only certain Illinois licenses. Roofer license are already required. Plumbing license are already required. Electrical license are required for the town of Busy, the valid test.
Okay.
So those are the three that require licenses.
Okay, awesome. And then the other question, is this going to, so let's say someone's remodeling a house and the general contractor comes in. General contractor has to be registered, all of his subs have to be
All subs,
registered.
everybody.
Right, great. And then the only other thing that, and this is something that Scott and I talked about, he actually showed me what we currently have on file, is just having something where residents get information about, you know, the State Attorney General Office, about just some information from other sources that already got it together, not more work for us, but something that's just printed out when the permit comes, where we require the contractor to give this information to the resident that basically says, here's how you know if you're in trouble with the contractor type of thing. Here's who to contact if you think you have an issue, here's your legal recourse. Just information that's already been prepared, which we already have, but just put it into the rules that they have to submit that. Because if they don't submit that, and then later it comes back and something happened, and the resident's like, no, they never gave me this information, that's why I come here, I didn't know where to go.
That can be just required as part of our permit.
Part of the permit application, right? And it's something as simple as this paper, but there's a lot of review.
Yeah.
So if that was all part of it as we're drafting, I know we're not
That's
drafting.
different from the registration.
Part of the
It's
permitting
contraceptive.
process.
That's procedural for the permit. Great. Great. Okay, I think that's all my questions.
Thank you, trustee Driscoll.
So when we're talking, Kathy, we're talking $500 per fine, right?
Well,
Up to
Up to 750.
Up to
Up to 750 for the house,
Yeah.
okay. There's a quick answer. So, I've been adjudicating those for 20 years. And when I first, got involved with the board, I was always wondering why we never did this to begin with. So I'm glad we're all on the same page with this now. I fully support this. It was a great revenue stream that we should have been maybe looking into before. But, yeah, it's great news.
Thank you, trustee Lawson.
I agree with trustee Driscoll. It's time for us to get on the list. We can have tenants.
All right, so what'll happen is, Village Attorney Orr will produce an ordinance, for us to, discuss and act on.
We will probably want to codify this
What's gonna have to be codified,
and
because we
make
gotta
it
do,
a part of our code.
we have to do this, plus we gotta do fees. So we gotta add that in.
Yeah, 150 as well as building code. Yes, we will.
So you'll be seeing this again, trustees. Stacy? Sure.
I understand $100, but will you write it so it says a range, just in case you ever wanna change the fee, and we have to go back and change the.
That will be in 150, it won't be in the ordinance itself, it'll be in the FMC changes to
No,
150.
it would take another action.
Okay.
Yeah.
We could put an escalator clause in there.
All contractors, solid, it's gonna be $100, whether it's general contractor, subcontractor.
But the other towns have certain.
Some of them do, some of them don't.
Right.
Right.
We might move to the, let's get it organized so that we see what we've got. But let's keep that in mind.
All right. Thank you so much. We do not need to go into executive session tonight, so I will take other business. Trustee Mustafa.
Sure.
Thank you, but I have no other business in your comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Brendan.
No other business or comments.
Thank you. Trustee Barry.
Yeah, I know it's late, so I won't be long-winded with this, but I did just want to acknowledge, the board, this week had received an email from a resident with concerns about, some of the traffic pattern issues we've had around schools. I was involved in a couple of, social media discussions about it as well, and had at least one other individual reach out to me. I did, and some of the other trustees may have as well, but I did, send an email to, Bridget Carl-Estelle and the mayor, with my concerns. I mirror the concerns of the residents. And I know we've had a lot of discussions about this, but we haven't had an update for a little while. So I asked if we could get a report, which my understanding is Mr. Estelle's now working on that report, or was working on it, and we'll have it soon. And then I also requested that at some point we have a board discussion about what that report is, and then maybe some ideas of some things that we could be doing, because I think it's been a while since we talked about it. And some things have gotten better. I know we've taken some measures to try and corral some of it. But I think it's just worth a conversation. So I appreciate the efforts that are already in place, the additional efforts that are being added. But I just wanted to make sure people knew it's not falling on deaf ears. We're working on it. It's something that means a lot to us because a lot of us have kids, viewers who have kids, and that traffic safety is critical. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Trustee Driscoll.
Yeah, two very brief comments. So I just wanted to thank the village, the mayor, Bridget, Esperanza for allowing us to do our ID drive for the Knights of Columbus for children and adults with intellectual disabilities. It was very successful, and a big part of that was our fundraising efforts here at Flossmoor as part of a larger group. Also, I wanted to thank the fire department, Acting Chief Taylor, Fire Chief Kopek, Director of Police Services, Estelle. You guys did a fantastic job for a blue mass on Saturday evening. We had the big holiday flag out there, the parking lot. It was very inspirational for us to have that time with you guys, and we just really appreciate all your efforts. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Trustee Locke.
No comments.
Trustee Mitros.
Help me figure this out, and I may not be very observant, but did we get new flooring out there? And when did that happen? Because I've just been noticing tonight, I think it looks great.
Yes. Last week?
Well, last week, okay, well, things sometimes don't move quickly around here, and that's taking a long time to get rid of that stuff, but the floor looks great. Is it green or gray or?
Yes, the board approved new flooring for really almost the whole facility, so
Yeah.
we started in here. And
Well,
we'll be working
it
with
looks
that.
good now, it's that carpeting.
You can see the concrete floor through the carpeting.
The carpeting was a long time overdue, so good job, that's all.
Thank you so much. Clerk Locale.
For those of you who have not seen on social media or in person, there is a flock of about 7 to 8 turkeys that have been around Flossmoor, about 4 neighborhoods in the last couple of weeks. So shout out to the Flossmoor turkeys that have been bringing a lot of joy to people. I hope everyone leaves them alone and doesn't cook them. That was my son's request. He would like to name them after Flossmoor streets. We're gonna work on that, so. Yeah, people that have been posting about them in their backyards, their front yards. I may have called the police department because they were on Sterling in the rain and I was afraid people were gonna run into them. But it all worked out. They got off of Sterling, so. That's it.
Thank you, Clerk Locale. Village Attorney Orr.
No
Village Manager.
The only thing I'd like to point out is that at our next next meeting, we're gonna have a presentation on our central business district project. You've heard us talk about this project for a few years now. It's been a while since we've been before the village board for a formal discussion. And so we're due to have that occur at our next meeting, and all are welcome to attend.
And big kudos to staff. We applied for this grant, this $1.2 million grant that's gonna make a lasting impact on our central business district. We applied for it in 2021, we didn't get it. We applied for it in 2022, we didn't get it. We applied for it in 2023, and we got it. So big kudos to staff for their commitment and dedication to this landmark project. So I'm very proud of this team and your efforts, so thank you. Wanted to do a quick shout out for Oktoberfest. Stephanie and team, everybody working together. That was a fantastic event. So many compliments from the entire day, whether it was the morning activities for the kids or the evening festival. So great job, everybody on that. Thank you. We have a tree planting coming up on October 19th. Check out the website for more information on that. This is Fire Prevention Week. Thanks so much to our fire department and all of their heroic efforts all year long. And then I just wanted to thank Trustee Driscoll publicly for the first responder mass. It was over at St. Veronica's. It was really special to be a part of that. Thanks to the Knights of Columbus crew as well, and thanks again to all of our department head chairs that came out for that.
I should be thanking you for speaking. Thanks.
All right, can I get a motion to adjourn? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? You sure? What's the score of the Chiefs? Anybody know?
17-10 Chiefs.